So, in super late game runs, you fill the map with paragons, sun temples, sun avatars, debuff towers, the VTSG and overclocks for them. But besides that, what should you do with the remaining space you have? In this video, we're going to compare all the tier 5 towers and see which ones you should use. Stick around. So I tested 50 different towers for both single and multi-target damage, so we have 100 results to look at, so we need to split it up somehow and then compile everything at the end. Let's start by having a look at how the testing took place. I started by placing my debuff towers in the same location I would in a usual game, as this will make the testing a lot more accurate. Then I buffed the towers with the same buffs I would have in an actual game, and for the placement, I chose some place that would be good for the tower, but I did not always choose the best possible spot, as these spots are often taken up by even better towers in an actual run. If the tower had an ability, I would use that ability constantly. For single target, we send 1 round 477 fortified bad, and for multi-target we send 20 of them with 10 units of spacing. In these tests, I did not have homeland defense, as this would only affect the absolute damage value, but the damage ratio between the towers would stay the same, and that's mostly what we want to know. These are the results for the Sun Temple and Sun Avatar damage, so that we have something to compare with. Normally when looking for good late game tier 5 towers to use, we want to look for great single target damage, but as you will soon see, you also have to look at the multi-target damage in order to make good choices. Let's start with single target damage. We have 50 results to look at here, so we will need to look at a few at a time. We will look at them starting from the best at the top of the list. On the list we also have the Sun Avatar and Sun Temple for comparison. If you look at the top of the list, you will see the Carpet of Spikes in second place, even beating the Sun Avatar, which may lead you to believe that this tower will be a good one. But no, if we quickly look at the multi-target damage for this tower, you will see that it doesn't scale at all. This is because the single target test had one bad that ate up nearly all of the spikes, and all multi-target does is to spread out the damage. It doesn't add more, so this tower is not a good one despite the single target result. Some really good towers on the single target list is the Flying Fortress, Super Mines, Sentry Champion, Sky Shredder and the Bloon Exclusion Zone and more. I'm going to transition through the rest of the towers now for the single target list, and then we will move on to multi-target. I will go ahead and put all of the results in the description as well, as long as I can fit it all in there. Once we have looked at multi-target, we will try to make a conclusion about which towers we should use. So, for multi-target we can see the tack zone is doing really well in second place, and both the Flying Fortress and the Sentry Champion did really good here as well. I'm going to transition through the rest of the multi-target results now as well. The sheer amount of results for this video makes it hard to present them in a good way. Finding the best towers and ordering them is difficult due to the fact that you have to consider both single and multi-target damage as well as the space they take up. But now that we have gone through the results real quick, what towers do we want to fill in the final spaces of our setup? First of all, here are some towers that you want to get, but that will not be on the list, as this video is about damage only. So now finally onto the list. After considering the damage for both single and multi-target, and also the space they take up, here is the tier 5 towers I would consider and how I would rank them. Now, as you can see, the druid and the ninja has no stacks in this test, and I've seen many people ask whether they should create a shinobi and poplust army to buff those towers. And my answer would be that those are good strategies for chimps late game, but not for easy mode late game. For the ninja, creating 20 shinobis just takes up way too much space. And for the Avatar of Wrath, it's a lot closer. If we were to place 5 Poplust druids, the multi-target damage for the Avatar of Wrath goes from 478k to 849k, plus the 5 druids damage, which gives us 1,475,000, assuming no lives lost. And remember that the Sun Avatar alone got over 1.1 million in the multi-target test. If you do go through the trouble of losing some lives, the total for the 6 druids goes up to 2.7 million, from which 1.5 million is just the Avatar of Wrath. Given that 6 druids takes up about the same amount of space as 2 sun avatars, there's a lot of different alternatives that you can go with here, and a couple of them are on the screen right now. And now back to the list. We are now one step closer to the final answer. As you can see, there are quite a few towers on this list, and the ones at the bottom are not that great. So now that we have picked the best towers and ordered them by single and multi-target damage as well as their footprint size, we need to ask ourselves, what's best? The bottom tower on the list or an overclock for the best tower on the list? If the answer is overclock, we remove the bottom tower and then ask, is the new bottom tower better than an overclock for the second best tower on the list? And then we continue asking this question until the answer is not the overclock, and then we have our final result. Now, as I mentioned, this will depend on the map and how much space you have left after getting an overclock for the VTSG, Adora, and every Sun Temple and Sun Avatar. And in case you're wondering why the engineer is at the number 1 spot despite being beaten by a few towers in both tests, remember that I said that we're not using Homeland in these tests because it won't affect the damage ratio between the towers? That's true for every tower except this one, because Homeland will increase both the speed of the placement of the sentries and also the sentries themselves. So when you have all buffs, this tower is the clear winner. And the exact order in this list is not set in stone. Some minor changes can be made if you disagree with the order, but you can use this list and methodology to create the perfect list of tier 5s for your setup. I hope this helps you in your late game endeavors. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.